So starting then with group exercises, what type of exercises can people expect?
Well, the most common ones, I think, most people will see it as just a discussion. So they might be given a topic to discuss. One of the ones in my book, as an example, they might have a contentious topic. It might be big business is unethical. It might be a topic like name the 10 most influential people in the world today. It could be a statement or a topic, and they're asked to discuss it as a group. It might be a group of 6 typically, and come to some consensus, and then perhaps at the end of it present their views, their group views. So that's one type of thing. Also, you might have an actual, what you might call a case study. So there might be a sheet of paper in front of you in the group. Each person has a sheet of paper with a problem or a scenario or a case with data to consider, to take in, and then the group to discuss as to a way forward, a solution, some proposals. So that could be what you might call a case study discussion. You might have an ethical, increasingly I'm noticing more an ethical question that might have a legal aspect to it and might have something to do with compliance to particular legislation or to a values base that is yours, hopefully, and potentially that companies or organizations. So it might be something to do with corporate social responsibility. It might be just something to do with how you would approach a particular situation. So these sort of ethical situations, there might be a challenge. And so many people have heard of these where you might have to build a tower. So there's more physical challenges, but there are also mental challenges. They tend to break down into those main areas. You might also have like an icebreaker group exercise when at the beginning, which is more light-hearted, but again, they're almost always you as a group discussing, deciding, collaborating, negotiating, and coming up with a proposal or an opinion at the end. So getting to know people very quickly and working together very quickly with a bunch of strangers, basically.
Having been an assessor at graduate recruitment events, it was the group exercise was always my favourite. It's really enjoyable just seeing a group of 6 people who don't really know each other in a time-pressured, generally pressurised environment, and just seeing how people interact. You can really see a full range of different emotions as people, especially as the clock starts ticking, and it is like a mini version of The Apprentice each time you see one.
I mean, I think this, James, is one of the aspects that I think people don't realise, that in our mindset we have almost memories, they're not quite memories, of apprentice type situations, of, I particularly think, picking teams in the playground, situations where some people were picked and some people weren't, of reality TV, so and so got voted off, and all these metaphors are sort of simmering away in our mind, and assessment centres play into a lot of those metaphors. And that's why people get more anxious, because these sort of vague memories of these other things are actually triggering a bad vibe almost, which we don't necessarily want, but they are part of what's happening for each individual, all those types of memories.
And I'd like to cover sort of mindset maybe later on in the interview, but one difference between assessment centres and all those things you mentioned is, having spoken to a load of graduate recruiters, I know from the company when we were recruiting, if there's 6 candidates and they're all 6 great, then we'll make 6 offers. Yeah. So it's not, it's an important mindset change for people to make, is that it's not a competition. It's you're there to help bring out the best in other people. And if you do that, then you'll succeed and they'll succeed, and you'll all get the job together.
That's exactly it. But what I'm saying is people have this other mindset, and they have to change that mindset to realize that you are collaborating with other people so that you can all potentially be successful. Exactly that you're not in competition with them, but unfortunately those sort of reality TV type programs are sort of playing in the background of people's minds. It feels like that, but it isn't. And that's one of the great myths that we do need to bust, really.
I love your comment, though, in the book that one thing about group exercises is that you have to perform. I mean, it was always frustrating when I'd see a good candidate coming in and then the group exercise would go and you just see them and they wouldn't speak. And you think, how can I give you any marks for any of the different different aspects if you're not speaking?
Yeah,
you have to show your skills on the day.
And unfortunately, again, to me, this is somewhat a British thing. We're frightened of showing off, and I talk about this. You have to be there to show off what you have. You have to make it easy for them to pick you. You can't expect them to read your mind and know that you're the right person. You have to show off. So you have to be switched on, and you have to be ready to perform in an authentic way, which is the part that people go, how can I perform and be authentic? But there is a way to be yourself, to show off what you think they need to know about you. You're selecting that for them so that they can get you, and see you. But you're absolutely right. If someone is not showing that, they're not giving anyone enough reason to score them well. Yeah.
So what particular aspects are assessors looking for, and how can people stand out from the crowd?
Well, if we're still talking about group exercises, there are things people can do which I think really, as an assessor myself, you'll notice. Things like saying at the beginning, whatever the time duration is just saying, let's introduce ourselves, and literally writing people's names down. And then when you ask a question or direct something towards someone, you can say, hey, James, what do you think about this? So that's a natural human thing where if we remember people's names, we bring them on side and we're interacting well. So one is that. Secondly, to be the person who says, who's going to watch the time, or shall I watch the time? Because often the time bit is the biggest problem. And so actually saying, I'll watch the time, and be the person who says, we need to move on, we've only got 10 minutes left or something. So that sort of shows leadership. They're not looking for someone who just bamboozles everybody and pushes their way into things, but someone who shows a leadership quality, but also shows the ability to humanly interact with other people in a warm way. So warm leadership, asking great questions, really listening and feeding back what other people have said, agreeing, affirming other people. These are the type of things that are the positive indicators they'll be looking for, the ones that will get them, ticking boxes on their check sheets.
Definitely, because ultimately the assessors are probably going to be the people who will be working with you. So ultimately they want people who they want to work with. So they want people who are friendly and positive and complimentary and bringing other people in, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And that likability factor is a very difficult one to quantify, but it comes up over and over again. Some people have that likability. They show that likability, and it is in that warmth and that sort of looking each person in the eye, giving eye contact, gently helping other people be good is the way that you'll look good yourself.
And also another top tip is to make sure you read the brief properly, because it's so easy. The instinct is you get given something and it's like, right, come on, let's do it. And so often you see groups just go off on a tangent and they'd miss one key phrase or one key word or what they actually need to do to deliver by the end of the hour or the time period. And if you can be the person who takes a step back and says, actually guys, maybe we need to consider this particular aspect, or we've not considered this, or who's going to do the report, and you can bring the structure, whether it's a timekeeping or just keeping people on track, then it really helps you to stand out.
No, absolutely. And also, if there are strange words in the case study or the brief, actually saying, what do we think this means, this phrase? Really getting some definitions. Do you think they mean this? So that you get some clarity at the beginning, again, so that you don't go off on tangents. So if there's a strange phrase, one of the case studies in my book, there was one that said a fidelity clause, and understanding it wasn't a legal one, it wasn't a legal case study, but they'd used this term fidelity clause in the case study. So what do you think they mean by fidelity clause? Let's get clear about that before we move on. Definitely.
It's just having the confidence to be able to speak, really, and, to ask questions and not to think that they're silly questions, because I'm sure other people will be thinking it, but it shows you've got the confidence to, put yourself forward.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely.
So turning that around then, what would be some of the common pitfalls that people need to avoid?
Well, in group exercises particularly, would you say? Yeah. In group exercises, the things I would say is too many closed questions. Ones which just generate a yes or a no. So if you're asking questions, there are reasons for some closed questions when you want clarity. Do you think they mean this or this? That's fine. But one of the pitfalls is too many closed questions. The second pitfall, I think, is not leaving it too late before you make a contribution. It's good to listen, but try and use questions when you don't have something to say. If you don't have something to say yet, then at least ask a question. Sort of get started, get into the discussion. Worst thing is interrupting someone, not letting them finish what they're saying, obviously. The worst thing would be to be dismissive of someone else's suggestion. Even if you don't agree with it, it's a really good idea to take a vote. Take a vote at the end. How many of us agree with this, and how many of us go with this? But to be dismissive, interrupt, those are the two worst things. But to not say anything at all until the last 3 minutes or something, would also suggest that you were slow in your thinking, which is the last thing you want to do.
That's a really good point. You can almost see the pressure building up inside people that they want to speak but have left it a bit long now, and
it becomes harder. Yeah, exactly.